1 month and 3 days. Keep that in mind. The gospel, as I mentioned last Sunday, continues today. Last Sunday, Jesus appears in his hometown. He is given in the synagogue the prophet Isaiah, and he reads the passage of bringing sight to the blind, allowing the lame to walk, release to those who are captive. This is nothing new to them. They've heard this before. What they had not heard before was Jesus concluding, today, here and now, this passage is fulfilled as you hear it. And indeed, the gospel picks up with that very line, today. And those that had been with him in Capernaum and elsewhere, who had seen the wonderful things that Jesus had done, had listened to him speak with authority as one sent directly from God. Bravo, bravo, well done, Jesus. They speak highly of him. But then there are those in his hometown. And all those of you who have graduated from college and have come back with degrees to your hometowns or the small town of your family, instantly, wonderful, bravo. But then all of a sudden, an interesting thing happens. Small town mentality takes over. Whoa, wait. Isn't this Joe and Mary's kid? Didn't we see this little kid running up and down the streets playing with his friends? I think so. And all of a sudden, the small town mentality takes hold of their faith. They were looking for Jesus to do the great things in their town, among them, that he had done in Capernaum. And all of a sudden, they allow that mentality to take them out of the moment of faith. It hasn't changed in a few thousand years. Throughout high school, I grew up in a small town. And if you ever forgot what your life was about, just ask anyone else in town, because everybody knew. We had a local paper. We didn't need the paper. It was like a history book. Everybody knew what was going on. It's a small town mentality. Sometimes it's good and sometimes not so good. For the people in the gospel today, not so good. Because all of a sudden, their great expectations of God within their midst and Jesus among them shifts, it changes, and it's no longer pleasant. Then it gets worse. Jesus reminds them, remember when there were a lot of troubles going on, famine, all that stuff? It was only to a widow in Zarephath that Elijah was sent to bring God's blessing of hope, to intervene in her life and the life of her son. Not your lives. And yet you experience the same famine. Yeah, this is Jesus, all right. It's that little kid. Now their minds are closed to the possibility that Jesus can do anything for them. Oh, remember when leprosy was running rampant? Oh, yeah. And the only one cured was Naaman the Syrian. They're getting ticked now. And they rise up in anger and fury. And they drive him out of town, right to the edge where the town was built, on that hill, on the brow of that hill, and they're ready to push him off. Just get rid of him. He's not what we expected. He's not what we want. So get him out of our lives. We'll just go about our life the way we want it to be. Small town mentality. For we in the 21st century, we live in larger towns and cities, but we are not exempt from the small town mentality, the small town of our mind or the small town of our heart. It can be our greatest undoing as well. It can push us to the point of putting Jesus in a box. Well, these are the things you normally do. Okay, got it. Sometimes it's easy to do that. It's easy. Because then our life has a sense of balance, and it's the way we want it to be. But then we check off the things that God doesn't do for us. Well, prayed for that for a week and a half. Well, check that off, put that in the box. And now our small mind and small heart mentalities limit God's intervention in our lives. Remember, God sees the bigger picture. We have very limited, sometimes tunnel vision, especially in our life of faith. And the great challenge is to overcome that. Many years ago when I was in seminary, I bought a small paperback book, about the size of a small envelope, very thin, about 50, 60 pages, by J.B. Phillips. The title, Your God is Too Small. A very interesting read if you can find a copy of it. But it's a great challenge because it reminds us we must let God be God. We must not pigeonhole or put God in a box and say, that's all you can do for me? Well, I guess that's it. Maybe that's all we want. If God says, well, that's all you want, that's all you think I can do, then that's all I'm going to do for you. Allow God to be God. Be surprised, be strengthened, be healed, find hope. Allow God to be God. They get right to the edge. They're ready to push Jesus off, and he simply turns, walks through their midst, and he walks away. He walks away from them because of the stubbornness of mind, heart, spirit, and soul. A great challenge for those who say we believe. Do we believe on our terms or on God's terms? Do we really believe? 1 month and 3 days. Anybody figure it out yet? No hands? Can't see the hands on the live stream, that's okay. Ash Wednesday. 1 month and 3 days, Lent begins. But the time to prepare is now. How does Lent make us holier, better Christians? What do we focus on? What do we bring to God in that unique season of spiritual growth? Perhaps it is the small town mentality that invades our minds and our hearts and our spirits. Perhaps that is what the Lord is asking us through the grace of the Holy Spirit to be healed from, to journey in that unique time of Lent, that time of purification and healing and hope, so that when we approach that week we call holy and the glory of Easter, we find a true resurrection from that has kept us blind, that has not allowed us to run free or that has held us captive. Today, as we hear, the promise of God is fulfilled in and among us. Do not limit the Lord. Do not limit God's power, his grace, his mercy. Let it be limitless. Take God out of the box. Open one's perspective away from a small mind or heart mentality and truly allow God to be God and to affect our lives for the good.